Each week we do something called a community moment. It's an opportunity for Lou or another member of the community to get up and share with us something they've been thinking about, maybe something they've read in a book. Really, there's no restriction on the subject. Sorry, Lou. Anything within reason. If you'd like to do a community moment, you can speak to myself, or when Mike's around, you can talk to Mike. We'll put you on the schedule for that. Today's community moment, like I alluded to, is Lou Kana, and his talk is entitled, Who's Afraid of Elizabeth Warren? Lou.
Okay. The idea for this started with a cover of Time magazine about a month ago. Who's Afraid of Elizabeth Warren? So I got kind of interested in her, and then kind of put thoughts aside. And then about 2 weeks ago, there was a long article in also in Time magazine called "The Agency That's Got Your Back." And as it turns out, the agency was founded by something Elizabeth Warren said or wrote. So this is actually one in a series of community moments that I'm doing about consumer issues. I think it's a better idea to steal from myself than from somebody else. So, okay. There's something called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I hope nobody in here ever needs this. But if you do, you'll be glad it's there. This agency is only about 5 years old. And the impetus for it starting was something that Elizabeth Warren wrote in the journal Democracy in 2007. And what she said is, it is impossible to buy a toaster that has a 1 in 5 chance of bursting into flames and burning down your house. But it is possible to refinance an existing home with a mortgage that has the same 1 in 5 chance of putting the family out on the street. My significant other and I, back about that time, got accepted for a mortgage that we never could have afforded. And I'm glad we didn't get it, but Countrywide said, sure. Yeah. Now, this agency has a $600 million budget. So this is big government. So if you're not a fan of big government, you're probably not going to be real comfortable with learning about this. But if you need it, you'll be glad that it's there. Okay, so it says, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a federal government agency that helps consumer finance markets work by making rules more effective, by consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and by empowering consumers to take more control over their economic lives. You know, it's kind of boilerplate. However, it turns out that it really works. You may remember the Dodd-Frank bill. It was a piece of reform legislature put in because of the 2008 financial crisis, primarily. So, it says the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act is a massive piece of financial reform legislation passed by the Obama administration in 2010 as a response to the financial crisis of 2008. The Act's numerous provisions, spelled over thousands of pages, are scheduled to be implemented over a period of several years and are intended to decrease various risks in the U.S. financial system. The Act established a number of new government agencies, the CEF, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau was one of them, tasked with overseeing various components of the Act. Let's see if I can get to their website.
Do I see Ashley Madison in there?
They wish. Yeah. Okay. So if you go to this website, and you can just Google CPFB, and you go to submit a complaint, you get this screen which wants to know what category of complaint do you have. Now, I'm going to jump the gun on my slide. Some of you may be thinking, where does this interact with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission? And there is a little difference between the two, and I'll try to clarify that in a minute. But when you go to this website, it wants to know what's the category of your complaint. Now, the focus of that article in Time magazine was about a woman who was going to lose her house, and the only option she had was to refinance it. So she went to a bank called Westar, and they said they would refinance, and they drew up the papers, and they sent her the invoice for their expenses, and included an $11,000 item that they had never told her about. So she called up the bank and said, what's the story on the $11,000? And she got the runaround. They just wouldn't explain it and wouldn't take the charge off. She went to the Consumer Bureau, and they made the bank back down. So if you go to the Time magazine articles and look for this one, there are numerous instances of consumers being helped by this bureau. Now, I started to wonder, what's the difference between this and, let's say, the Better Business Bureau? The biggest difference is the Better Business Bureau has no enforcing powers. They can't make anybody do anything. They don't sue, they don't fine, they can't put companies out of business. All they can do is make them a little unpalatable. This bureau can put companies out of business. They have subpoena powers. They can issue fines, and I'll read a few of those to you. This also, you probably know, if you go to Yelp, YELP, you can put in complaints there, but they can't do anything about it. Just like TripAdvisor, you can go in and relay the experiences you had at a particular hotel or with an airline, and they'll post the reviews, good or bad, but that's the end of it. It's up to you to decide if the review is one that you want to listen to. Okay, so. Excuse me. Okay, these are a few of the things that they did. The first one I already told you about, remove the closing fee of $11,000 for this poor woman in Michigan. By the end of 2012, it had ordered Discover, Capital One, and American Express to pay $537 million in penalties and refunds for deceptive credit card marketing. This is the good part of big government. On 3, it fined U.S. Bank $48 million for charging 420,000 borrowers for identity protection services they never received. To date, it has issued hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties and generated $11 billion in relief for 25 million customers. So this bureau has real power. So if you get a phone bill and it's got miscellaneous charges on it, and AT&T or Verizon won't explain the charges, go to that website and issue a complaint, and they will look into it. That view of the website I brought up a minute ago has the Submit a Complaint tab, and it has categories like mortgages, student loans, vehicle loans or leases. I'll tell you, I've had some experiences recently with automobile leases. They're almost impossible. Anybody here ever leased a car? Yeah. Could you read the contract? Did you understand what all those stuff is? Well, if the dealership won't explain it, maybe you should issue a complaint here. Payday loans, big one. Other consumer loans, products and services, bank accounts, miscellaneous charges that the bank won't explain. Credit card charges that you swear are invalid and the credit card company won't listen to you. Debt collection, money transfer, other financial services. So, like I said, I hope nobody here ever has to use this bureau, but I encourage you to use it if you have a complaint that's going unresolved. So, the last part of this is about the Federal Trade Commission. And it's been around for a long time. And it offers a lot of the same services that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau does. So, if it's 10 o'clock at night and you can't get to sleep, log on to your computer and Google this, Memorandum of Understanding between the CFPB and the FTC. You'll be asleep in no time. So, the two agencies, realizing there were possible conflicts, came up with this legalese memorandum of understanding that says, we'll do this and you do that. So, my advice to you on this is, the way I see it, if it's a business issue, copyright infringement, whatever, FTC. If it's a personal issue, credit cards, mortgage loans, car leases, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, it can't hurt. Just give it a try. I hope you don't need it, but if you do, you'll be glad it's there. Thank you.